What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Apex, the podcast. It is our ALGS Split 1 preview. The season, by the time we drop next week's episode, will have begun, and we will have ALGS action officially underway. And who do we invite on to do all of our analysis, to let the people know what's going on behind the scenes, maybe some things that they missed, some players they haven't been paying attention to, some teams who may be way better than people are expecting? We bring on JHawk, because JHawk knows. He knows, and he's one of our favorite people to bring on. He's one of those guys where you tell him what's going on, say, hey, we got a season preview episode. He's like, ready to go right now. I could do it right now. He could talk about anything at that moment. You could ask him on the spot. You could show up to his house unannounced, knock on the door. He'd invite you inside. You pull out a briefcase with 3 microphones, and he would just start going. That's how he works. That's how he does. JHawk with another beautiful breakdown. I believe it's about an hour and 10 minutes of him breaking down all of the different teams around NA, but also he has a section in there where he talks about some teams from other regions that maybe if you are in NA and you don't get a chance to watch those regions, maybe you have work or whatever, he does break down some teams to keep an eye out for and some players as well. So we will get to that in just a moment. We're just going to do a quick intro today, just to say a little bit of a what's up and send it on down to the interview. But let's check in with E. How are you doing, my man?
I'm doing well. Just on the grind, figuring it out, trying to figure out what I want to do with my schedule, figuring out where I want to be placing my time in a way that I can set myself up to be successful and avoid any amount of like burnout. Because I'm definitely, I want to be putting in like 13, 14, 15 hours of work every day. But then it's a matter of, okay, am I getting the most productive out of those hours if I'm doing them all at one time, or if having a break in the middle could be something that would be nice. So I'm thinking about implementing something like that. But yeah, man, just enjoying the grind, trying to be as grateful as I can. Because when you're on like the hills and valleys, it just got to be as grateful as possible. And that's where I'm placing my attention. It's been good. I'm happy.
There we go. My week has been good as well. I just turned 28 years old. Birthday was 3 days ago.
Let's
go. I'm officially 28.
Happy birthday.
Thank you,
old
sir. Man. Yeah. It's crazy how I just don't feel that age whatsoever, but I am, and there's nothing wrong with that. So, just turned 28. Had one of the better, I would say, top 5 birthdays I've ever had, and it was just all of my friends. It was like I don't know if you've ever had this situation, but maybe you're at home and you find out like your favorite cousin is coming over out of nowhere, like that day, and your mom's like, yeah, they're going to be here in like an hour, like get ready. You're like, oh shit, let's go. I didn't really know that all my friends were coming over, and I just was there, and all of a sudden they were all there. And then we just had a good time, hung out. Everybody got to hang out with the baby for a little bit, so that was good. Also, the baby is getting into those dancing fruits. I don't know if you've seen those like on social media, but like babies will just stare at the screen, and there's like these dancing fruits, and they just dance. That shit gets me sometimes. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like sometimes I'm the one getting mesmerized by the dancing fruits. So there was that, and then also my favorite day of the year, 115. Before Apex, before any other game, Call of Duty Zombies was my shit. Like I actually, before I did any sort of podcasting, I started off my content career with Call of Duty Zombie YouTube videos where I would just break down each map, what was good, what was bad, what I liked about them, what was wrong with them, and then I'd give them like a very specific ranking. And I think I went through all World at War maps, and then I was like, realized that because I tried doing that probably like 5 years too late. Like after Black Ops 4, when Zombies was basically just like dead, dying on the floor. But Zombies Day, my favorite day. One question I'd like for the Discord: your favorite Call of Duty Zombies map. I don't care if like everybody else hates it. I just want you to tell me what it is in the Discord and tell me why, because I love conversing with people about Call of Duty Zombies. And I'm sticking to Treyarch only. If we can do that, please. Although I do think Advanced Warfare Zombies, the Exo Zombies, was pretty fun. That was also pretty fun. I will give you that. But Zombies Day, Element 115, January 15th, Zombies Day. So send on that. Send that in the Discord. If you're not in the Discord right now, click the link down below and you can join. But other than that, my week was awesome. My week was good, and I am feeling great. And I'm ready to send it on down to this interview here with JHawk because he's got everything. He's got all the knowledge, all the info, all the intel, all the breakdowns, things you may not have thought about. It's all there. JHawk's got it. He's got it for you. And then at the very end, you get mine, JHawk's, and Enoch's predictions for NA in season 1. I wanted to do the whole thing. I wanted to just do LAN. I wanted to go full LAN. JHawk pulled back a little bit. You might have to let him know. You might have to say, like, hey, JHawk, next time you gotta do it. Because what if you just got them all right? There's a possibility, there's a world out there where he would have gotten them all right. Who knows? Who knows? But ladies and gents, let's hit a quick ad and on the other side, ALGS Year 4 Split 1 preview with JHawk. Let's get it. All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We've got on the man, the myth, the legend. He is the fan favorite who we bring on just about this time, every time a new season's about to start. JHawk is here. JHawk, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're doing fine. We are doing good. If you guys don't know who JHawk is, shame on you, number one. Number two, go on down to youtube.com, click on the little search bar, type in J followed by Hawk, and you will immediately know who he is. He breaks down the ALGS. He goes through all the storylines, does a very good job, very long-form videos that are interesting and very easy to digest, and you learn everything that you want to know about these teams, these players, how certain situations panned out. JHawk is the GOAT. JHawk, we have a lot to talk about here. We're getting into a brand new season. But before we get into all of the stuff and potentially predictions on where we think things are going to land coming up here in ALGS year number 4, Split 1, I just want to start off with your overall thoughts on ALGS right now as just the state of the game, how you feel about it, what direction you think it's going in, how are you feeling about our competitive league right now?
The state of the game itself, like Apex, I mean, I think it's just a little bit stale right now, and I think that might carry over to comp because after champs, like the meta is kind of the same, with the only real change being like conduit, and then maybe like the SMG changes. I don't know how much we're gonna see like the 99 or the car. Like maybe we see a little bit more Volt, but like we're still gonna see a ton of 30-30s. So I don't feel like the meta is going to change that much. Still a lot of Bang, still a lot of Cat, still a lot of Horizon, mixing some Conduit and some Bloodhound. But I do think that whenever it was like season 20 drops like midway through, that once that happens, then there'll probably be some pretty huge changes. I'm assuming because the content that we've had recently has just not been pretty big. So I'm assuming they're like kind of saving it for season 20. So that's like the game itself, but for the league, I'm really excited. I think that it's going to be a really great year. I can't say everything that I've heard behind the scenes in terms of stuff that's happening, but all the kind of rumors I'm hearing of like the locations for LAN are really sick. Just some of the stuff that I know that the league has already kind of have planned in terms of like content and stuff they want to move towards is really cool. So I think there's going to be a lot of really awesome new additions to like just the ALGS atmosphere that I'm really excited about. And I just think like this is probably going to be the most competitive year we've had yet. So I'm pumped.
Hell yeah.
What are your thoughts on there being such a drastic potential like game changing drop happening in the middle of the league and like from like the sports perspective?
Do we know like what day it releases? Because I know that
I think it's in like 30ish.
Because I know that there's like
I believe it could be like week 4, I believe. I could be wrong about that though.
Because between week 5 and 6 is like a month break, which that happened last year too, where they have like that really long break in between. So if it releases like week 4, that gives them 2 weeks where they're playing on that patch, and then there's a long break. So I think that'll give them some time to figure it out. And I think it's a little interesting from a viewer perspective because then you can kind of see what they do the first few weeks. Teams are still kind of getting their foot under them. And then boom, like huge new meta drops. Oh my gosh, like this could totally change everything. But if I was a competitor, I'd probably be pretty pissed, not gonna lie. Like, especially if my team is really good in the current meta and then like things completely change and like our POI sucks now, or like the comp that we are running is terrible. Like if something like that was to happen, I'd probably be pretty upsetting. So I'm in the middle because I'm a viewer, so like I'm inherently a little more biased. Like I enjoy things like that, but I can understand if pros are going to complain about it. To be honest.
So moving, let's turn back the clock a little bit and let's go to preseason qualifier, because I think this was one of the more exciting preseason qualifiers we've seen.
Oh yeah.
Just because number one, it seemed like a lot more eyes were on it this year. There was a lot of big names in there. People wanted to see who was getting in, and there was a lot of controversy, a lot of drama, a lot of things going down. And I think overall, it's just good for the scene for the future of ALGS. But from this preseason, do you think the best 8 teams got in? Do you think those were the best teams coming out of the preseason qualifier?
I mean, yeah, I feel it's kind of hard to argue, right? Like E8 was undoubtable. Like most people kind of agree they're not a PSQ team. Like they're a pro league team. They didn't get the invite, so they had to play. They handle their business. And then after that, I think like everybody else kind of felt like still in that PSQ range, but I thought like Drop In needed to make it. They did it. Nine Lives needed to make it. So I think all like the quality teams should have made it did make it. The only one that I thought was gonna like actually get there that didn't was Tripods, which there was all the controversy around all that stuff happening, but that just goes to show that like when people talk about NA as a region and they talk about like, oh, like these challenger circuit teams could probably beat like some of these LAN qualified teams in other regions, like this is what they're talking about, because like it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, and it was definitely a spectacle for everybody around. And even if you didn't really pay attention to the preseason, some of these teams are really good coming out of this preseason qualifier. Out of these 8 teams, do we have a Dojo like situation going down? Do you think there's one of those teams that could pull something like that, or was Dojo kind of like a one of a kind type team?
I mean, if we're including E8 in those 8 teams, they're the only team that I think could do that, because like Zach's already been on LAN. He's had success like that. Shuby's nasty. Zapto's nasty. So like they're the only team that you could consider that. But even then, like a Dojo like situation is getting top 5 on LAN, which is like that's really hard to do. So I'm not going to put that expectation on any of these teams. But no, I don't think that like split one, any of these teams are going to go do that crazy. I do think E8 could make LAN. But after that, trying to say that they're going to finish top 5 for any team that's not like TSM or DZ, which even DZ, like they only got top 5 once last year, is pretty tough.
You're muted, Enoch.
That's just too funny. I could definitely see it from EA. I'm not gonna lie. I think that they.
You called Dojo, so I mean,
I did. I mean, I kind of have a history, but I would say that I think EA they could. I would put them in my top 5 for NA, or like for like this coming season. I think the combination of Zach, Shuby, and Zapto, ever since Zapto has joined the team, I think they've just been one of the most consistent teams, even on their bad days. And so I could see them having a fantastic season.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably most people would say it's a hot take. They're top 5 in NA, but I could see them doing it. Just I don't know. They've been frying in scrims, so I agree. I'm not saying that I would personally pick them there, but I could see them doing it.
Speaking of
That's fair.
scrims, we've been having the scrims have been going down the last couple weeks, and I mean, I know you're watching them. I know you're paying attention at least somewhat to them to kind of figure out and see how these teams are faring. Some of these rosters are relatively new, and we'll get to some of those newer ones coming up here in a second. But from these scrims so far, has there been a standout? And I know that you can't take scrims too seriously because they don't play exactly the way that it would be on a match day or LAN. But is there any team that have been kind of keeping your interest?
I mean, it's kind of all the usual suspects, to be honest. Like Pollos Hermanos, which is the old LG team, they've been balling out a lot recently. DZ's been doing really good recently, which I think when they first were picking up Sykes, I think they struggled a little bit, but they've been turning it on and getting like top fives a lot recently. Phony's team, League of Legends, they've been balling out. Xset. So I mean, yeah, it's kind of just the usual suspects that are up there right now.
I would say we've been seeing Flat in there.
That is true. We haven't
been
seen
performing
Flat
incredibly well.
And speaking of Flat too, I mean, like they had some pretty high profile contests against Oxygen earlier on, and it seems like they've kind of won those. So Flat's been doing really good.
Speaking of contests, we've got the meat grinders.
Yeah.
Tech, meat out here going up against TSM. It's caused some drama on the Bluebird, but we expected that. That's what we love as a viewer. We want to see more of it. Meat, do you think that this would be the time where Tech finally breaks through and is able to get somebody to be like, hey, this guy's legit. This guy's legit. Maybe we got to sign him. I mean, he's making waves. He's making content. And we had him on the show. He was a pleasure to have. Like, is this the season for Tech?
So here's one thing I want to say, because this actually really frustrates me that a lot of people say this about Tech, is so many like TSM fans like to say that Tech is trolling by contesting TSM, which, like, for the record, I think they're winning on the overall contest. I don't know the exact score, but it's like close enough that, like, why would you leave, you know? But I've talked to Tech a little bit, and I think he actually said this on the episode with y'all that he was on, where his philosophy is like, it stems back to when he was on Furia. The way that Furia got Lightning Rod was Tech contested for that POI for months, and then eventually was able to, like, I don't even know who they were contesting against, but got that team to leave, and they got Lightning Rod for themselves. And so I fully believe that, like, Tech, if it means that he secures Lightning Rod for split 2, would contest the entire split if it's like close. Like if they're getting blown out, like I don't think, so many people are like, oh, that team will never leave. They'll never leave. If you're getting like blown out and destroyed on actual match days, at some point, like they're going to call it, right? Like his teammates would like talk about it, or he would talk about it. I don't know who's like fully pushing for the contest, but somebody would do it, right? But they're not getting blown out right now. So like, why would they leave? Like, what's the point? And if they go in, and they're also not in the same groups, which that's a really important thing too, that when teams contest, I don't think a lot of people factor this in either. Like when TSM's not in the lobby, meat lovers are going to have Siphon and Lightning Rod to themselves uncontested. Like that's pretty crazy, like of a duo of POIs for them to play out of. So if they can just like ball out during those days, be like solid during the contest against TSM, then I think Meat Lovers still has a chance to make land. So, and like I said, I fully believe that they will contest the entire split if they believe there's a chance that they can secure at least Lightning Rod, because I don't think they actually really care about Siphon. They just want TSM to leave Lightning Rod, so they're going to put pressure on both maps. But I think there's a chance that like they would contest the entire split as long as like they're still in a solid spot. So I think that they absolutely deserve to get signed, like, and be a part of an org, and you know, like, try and go for LAN or something like that. But at the same time, with the current state of NA, where like the old LG boys are free agents, Phony's team are free agents, like it's just kind of tough, you know.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there, but we're pulling for Tech. We're definitely pulling for Tech. Okay,
it's gonna get real spicy, dude, during the season.
It's gonna be this is why, like, this is the hype episode. It's gonna be so great. There's so many more storylines now.
Because I mean, just think about
ahead.
too, like last split, or what, I don't know what split it was, but when E8 was contesting TSM at Wall, and like that wasn't even like really anything crazy, because a lot of the times they weren't even actually fighting, and yet how dramatic that got on Twitter and Reddit and all these places. So now imagine like if Tech like is winning the contest at any point, it is gonna get crazy.
Yeah, we had I think we had Zach on during that entire debacle to kind of like give his story like to it. Like, and that was, I don't know if it reached this level. So we'll see how that goes.
There was definitely not a controller toss for that. Contest.
Yeah, exactly,
yeah,
dude.
Like
how
that
dude, we're not even in the season yet, and Hal threw a controller at a wall. Like that's crazy.
Yep. 100%. Okay, so we've got 3 groups here: Group A, Group B, Group C, like we do every single season. And I love to ask the question: which group do you think will be the hardest because, for some of these teams, sometimes your group can dictate like a massive part. Like you said, because Meat is not in TSM's group, they don't have to worry about that contest every single time. There's probably some teams that benefit from being in a different group and some teams that'll kind of take a little bit of a loss for being in a specific group. Looking at these three groups right now, which one do you think would be the hardest to come out of?
I think it's Group C, like undoubtedly. Group C to me, the moment I saw it, felt like the group of death. And then Stallions got dropped from that group because Sweet's team, combined with Stallions, so they're not there anymore. But I think Oversleepers got put in there, so that sucks for them. But yeah, when Tempo posted those, I literally have the tweet pulled up right now, and I replied, "W2F is Group C," because it has Dojo, Poyos Hermanos, Yanya's team, then Sentinels, Exet, Furia, Moist, Meat, Nine Lies, Evolution, and Oversleepers. Like, that's brutal, dude.
That's
Especially when
brutal.
like your PSQ teams includes like Nine Lies and Evolution, who are like really good fighting teams. Like, that is tough.
Yeah, it's gonna Group C definitely looks. Looking at Group A, at the top you have TSM, Luminosity, Oxygen, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not that the other teams are scrubs by any means, but it's just
Right.
like that group is. Yeah, I could definitely.
No, I
Looking at
mean,
Group
yeah,
C,
group A is by far like the easy group.
Yeah.
yeah,
And I saw a lot of people saying like, "Oh, of course, TSM has Group A."
it's the
Yeah.
cross that they bear. It is the
I
cross
mean,
that they bear.
like Group A, there's probably like 3 or 4 teams there that can make LAN, but maybe 5 if you're like stretching it, but probably only 3 or 4. So
Now that you mentioned Group C, this was a big story that I don't think we've gotten to talk to you about yet. But
mm-hmm.
Moist Esports coming over from APAC South. They are now NA. They're here. They're ready to. They were already one of the better teams because even though they were coming out of a, there you go, right there. Watch the YouTube. Even though they are coming out of a region that was obviously weaker, they were always performing. They were always at
Mm-hmm.
LAN and they were always performing at LAN. Now they're in NA. They're in the death group. They're probably a major reason why it's considered the death group. How do
Yeah.
you think a team like that will fare, especially when it now, the match days were probably a little bit easier for them when they
Mm-hmm.
were in a region that, wasn't fully up to par. Do you think they're going to struggle a little bit out of the gate trying to gauge how tough this competition is at first? Or do you think it'll just be like easy pickings for them? They can just move through like they have in the past.
They've been doing really good in scrims, so I'm not too worried about like their actual gameplay. The only thing that does worry me about Moist is I don't know their POIs. I know that they had lost like a contest earlier to Native, and so they had to move around. And I think that they might be potentially having to contest the former LG boys. So I don't fully know. I don't know what the updated drop spots are because I haven't paid attention to scrims this week, or sorry, the last week. So like the actual, in-game stuff that's happening. But I do worry about their POIs because I know they've had to move around a couple times throughout scrims. And the reason I worry about that is because that's what happened to DZ when they first came to NA, is they were having to move around, jump around. They couldn't like fully secure a POI that they really like loved. And we saw that kind of, it just made things a little weird, especially when you like talk about, that potential huge patch change. Like we don't know what that's going to be. And so just having to potentially adapt midway through a split from POIs that maybe you're not fully comfortable with, and you want to throw in the whole like 100% beacon spawn rate glitch that we have going on right now. So they don't even have fully like good practice that's happening right now. I don't know. I still think they're going to qualify for LAN, and I don't think they're going to have as much as a problem as DZ did, because having Guild on your team, like he's familiar with the region, he's familiar with how other teams play. Like I think he can provide them like a lot of stability in that regard. But yeah, if they secure their POIs, then I have no doubts about them, dude. Because Moist, they are studs. Like they're one of the only teams that I've ever thought globally could ever make it in North America and actually make it to a LAN. And then you add in the fact that they got Guild, like that. I mean, he's nuts. And I think that his stock kind of dropped with NRG, but it just feels like such a perfect fit with the Moist boys, like the vibes, the professionalism they have, the way they approach the game. the role that he's going to fit into that with that team, I think it's going to be like such a good fit. So as long as they get their POIs, I feel really good about Moist.
Did you have any? I thought you had one.
Oh, you got it.
Okay. Moving off of Moist, and you just mentioned Guild a little bit. Let's move over to his former teammate, who obviously made a big jump. Sweet finally signs. He is now like everything is the dust has settled with that. He's got a brand new team. What do you think? Like, do you think there's going to be a little bit of a different Sweet coming into this season? Do you think we're going to see something different and potentially maybe his first land win?
Land win is a bold take. I don't know if I'd go that far because I got to see the team first, but I think the team's going to be fine. Like they have Zeus uncontested on Stormpoint, which is like one of the best POIs. So that's pretty good. And then I think they're contesting Skirt, which is Albert Lely's team for Lava Fissure. And if they get that POI, like that's another solid one. So they have solid POIs. Funk and Slayer are really good roller players. I am interested to see how like the chemistry works with those because I know that Sweet and Slayer have played a ton of rank together over the years, or at least over the last year. And
they seem like they're boys, for sure.
And like having Nathan on his team for so long, I do kind of wonder that maybe if there was just like a level of comfort that made him not grow, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like when you're just kind of stuck in the same situation, not stuck because like Nathan's a stud, so that stuck sounds like a bad word, but when you're like in the same situation forever, like you can kind of just get complacent. And so I wonder if maybe that happened, and then like whoever their third was, whether it was Rocker or Guild, was just kind of like that third piece, and they have to try to fit in to where with two new teammates who were actually teaming before him, like Sweet has to kind of fit into their team, if that makes sense. And obviously they're going to play around Sweet, but I think it could be good for him. And also now he has two rollers, so maybe they can get more aggressive. So yeah, I think they're going to be good. I think a lot of people are not fully like sleeping on them, but sort of expecting them to do significantly worse than NRG did, just because on paper it doesn't seem like as good of a team. But I think they're going to be real solid. I wouldn't go as far to say they're going to win a LAN because I mean that's real tough.
Moving on to a different storyline here, and I have a question with this one.
Mm-hmm.
So we saw the return of his Watson, obviously a very big figure in Apex in general, but if you want to throw in the ranked aspect of it, I mean not ranked, competitive aspect of it, obviously very big as well. His Watson playing with Keon, his old friend, and I'm Madness. My one question is, you just kind of raised the interesting point of when Sweet was playing, with Nathan, maybe there was a bit of a comfortability.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've watched a little bit. I mean, and Scrims is just, whatever. You can't really take that at face value.
Yeah.
But what do you think with this team? Do you think we could fall into that same pattern here with Furia?
Fury is a weird team because I don't know how like committed Watson is to comp. Like I know that from everything I've seen in scrims, like I'm not worried about them. Like honestly, before they got Watson, when they had Vax, like Madness, Keon, and Vax were one of the best performing teams in scrims. Like they were balling out. So I don't have any questions about like Keon and Madness. And I think that Watson is like a stud, and like talent wise, I have no questions about him. And obviously chemistry wise with him and Keon, like it's there. And I think they just need time. So like I'm not expecting them to like be bad or anything. But I don't know, when he like first came back, like the comments he was kind of making didn't make me feel he was the most committed. It was more like, yeah, like I'm doing it. We'll see what happens. Like worst case, they'll just get another third. Like it didn't feel like, yeah, I'm all in, and that part worries me a little bit. But at the same time, I don't know. I think that when you're playing with your boys, if you're having fun and the vibes are good, then I think it'll work. Now, how much will it work? Like, I'm not picking them personally to be top 5 in NA. I think they can make LAN, but I don't think they're a lock by any means. Do you guys think like they're a lock?
I would put them in the lock category from my POV. Which that might be one of my bolder takes, but I do think that team is going to be performing phenomenally once they get a little bit more time as a team.
I'd agree.
They've already shown like from like a team chemistry point, like that they can fight really, really, really well together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Madness will be able to get them into like the right spots. And yeah, as you said, like Keon and Madness, when they were performing with Vaxlon, they were like top 3, no doubt,
Yeah.
basically every day. And yes, I don't think that there's that steep of a drop off from like Vaxlon to Watson, if there is any at all.
I mean, talent-wise, they're both studs, right? It's
yeah,
just like
I mean,
a
they're both
different
just
fit.
incredibly talented, like just incredibly talented gamers. And I think competitive will go a lot better this time around with Watson not having to be that like hard IGL.
Right.
Well, like just like being like not even like he wasn't even like a hard IGL, but being the IGL. I think him having Madness to really just help put him in the right spots, and it'll make the comp game as a whole more enjoyable for him. And obviously he'll still be providing like the insight that he has, but I think that this is, as far as comp fit goes, I don't think that there'd be a better duo for him to make his comeback into the scene. And I would say that like from at least like the information that I have on it, if they literally just decided to do it within like a day.
Yeah.
And so it definitely just seemed like a last moment spur of like just, yeah, let's throw it together, let's make it happen, because theoretically it sounds like it should go really, really well. But yeah, I think that that's going to be a team that I would put them as a lock in top 5, especially when you consider the fact that they have PvP working with them. And he like PvP, the 2 teams that he worked with the most last season was Dark Zero, because he was their coach basically all the way up until LAN, and then FaZe, and who also made LAN and then had an incredibly strong showing. Like, yes, Dan Apex was working with FaZe during the LAN, but PvP had worked with them before. And so I think the combination of the insane just bond that Watson and Keon have, like that's like just, I think something that's just few teams are going to like have something like that strong of an element. The bond that you have with Keon and Madness as they like stuck with each other amongst the team rounds, like when they were trying to find their third, and they play phenomenally well together. And then the fact that you have PvP in the mix as well, I just think it's a really great setup and a team that I would expect to do pretty well this year.
Why do you think they're going to make LAN?
The only opinion I have on it is, I always bring it back to sports, but sometimes you'll see a team sign a lot of like bigger name players that maybe necessarily are either on the downward slope or are in that weird, maybe they just came off of an injury and you're not really sure how it's going to go. Yeah. But then it seems like social media thinks that they're going to be the greatest team of all time.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's how social media reacted to them coming together. I just need to see a little bit more first, because
I'd agree.
It does seem like when you take a break like that from competitive, like his Watson did, there could be the potential for a really big letdown. And I don't want there to be a letdown. I think as a storylines guy, I really hope that they do get there. I really hope that they make LAN, because I think that storyline makes it so much more of an interesting watch.
Yeah.
So I would hope that they make it. But I do have that worry about the, getting way too excited beforehand because of the name and the people surrounding it and the story surrounding it. And then when it actually comes to like perform, maybe things don't go as well. That's the only thing I'm thinking of. But I would like to see them there. If I had to actually place them right now by looking at all the teams around, I would say like fringe, like we're on last day. I'd say like 8, 9, 10, 11 range maybe is where I have them.
That's where I'm feeling.
So that's kind of my thing with Furia. Moving off from the Furia storyline and getting into TSM.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
What we this was the previous question, but I got to ask this because in honor of our boy Finn. What do you guys think about Sweet? What do you guys think about his current team? I know you probably talked about it on like a previous episode, but because Finn, he had some hot takes about Sweet's previous team.
I think we can put him down as a certified Sweet hater.
Yeah, he hated him. I don't know why.
He was the president of the hate club.
And then to try and pretend like he wasn't, he all of a sudden said they were going to win LAN. It's like, okay, come on. Be a little less obvious.
Yeah, see, that move, you knew that wasn't real. You knew that wasn't a real move. I actually think the 2 controller thing is big. And the vibe with I think you made a really strong point with Nathan now being he's more of like a sub, right? He's like a
He's a
substitute.
sub.
So I think having two new fresh players, a new org, and two controller players in this version of Apex with his IGL style, I actually do. I'm gonna have them in high regard when I do my ranking. Like you probably already heard it if you're listening right now, but I will. In my ranking, I have them in high regard because I think that all of those aspects put together, plus the fact that nobody's really looking his direction right now, like he's kind of underrated, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
I do have them in high regard. I think he's going to do really well. I think Luminosity as a team is going to do really well. That's what I think.
I'd agree. I think too, like Sweet, he's never missed a LAN finals, So, and like obviously that was all with Nathan, but it just feels like tough for me to not believe that Sweet is going to go to a LAN.
It's also funny
I'd
that
put him in LAN.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the first time that Sweet's going to be able to play with two controller players, and I think that's just going to be, and like Nathan is about as good of a mechanical MK player as you can get, but it doesn't change the fact that it's like a roller, and so I definitely think that it'll be a test to see like truly like how good of an IGL is Sweet being able to play with people that he doesn't have any experience playing comp with and be able to consistently keep that high level that he's been having with Nathan. But I would say that I'm leaning towards that he's going to find the way to make it happen. Yeah. And it's going to be exciting to see just the performance of Slayers and Funk. Because, I mean, Retsy's a good IGL, but I mean, he's just not at the same level as Sweet.
Yeah.
And so it'll be a good combination of you have these two incredibly talented controller players that have plenty of experience playing together, and then you're putting them with one of the top 5 IGLs in Apex history, debatably. And then it could be just the combo that Sweet has like been waiting for and needed that'll allow him to really take his game to the next level as an IGL.
I'd agree.
I also think it's funny.
There's like a decent amount of pressure, right? Because I mean, they took the LG boys org.
Oh yeah.
Like they just walk in there, take the org of like one of the best teams in the game right now.
Yeah.
Take their org, and now it's like everybody understands. It's like, okay, like it's because he's one of the biggest streamers in Apex. Obviously, from LG's perspective, they're trying to make money. How do you make money in gaming? You got to have attention. The former LG boys, they garner a significant amount of attention. Like they're not like 20 viewer Andes by any stretch of the imagination, but like Sweet's just bringing in those numbers. But now it's like, are they going to be able to back it up in terms of bringing home that and like achieving that level of excellency?
Because if they were to miss LAN and the old LG roster was to make it, like, they'd be getting flamed.
Twitter on that. Dude, if that day ever happens, Twitter is going to have some.
I didn't even think about that.
Or even if they both make LAN and say, like, Sweet doesn't make it to finals, like, just if they're not, like, close in results, they're going to be compared forever, right? Like,
they're going to be compared all season. Yeah. I feel like that's just going to be something that is just straight up going to happen no matter what.
100%.
But I did see a fairly positive Twitter interaction between the former LG boys and Crew Esports, which I believe is a South American based org, and so that could be just if that is that's the perfect opportunity for an org from that region to get involved into the Apex scene.
Yep,
that would be. I mean, and I feel like that would really blow up the Apex scene in that region even more because it'll give them like a top performing team in the world to rally behind.
Dude, and that org is owned by Sergio Aguero and Lionel Messi.
Aguero from Man City?
Messi, we're talking
Aguero,
Messi.
And then Messi just became a co-owner recently. So like that's crazy, dude. If they get him. That'd be sick.
That'd be so sick. That'd be so sick. The one thing I was gonna say
Messi
was
just pulls up to a LAN. Like imagine,
dude, he just got the World Cup like in his backpack, walking in. No, I was gonna say it's funny too when we talk about Sweet on this podcast because obviously we have the Finn stuff, which is one thing. But
Yeah.
if you look at the way we've talked about Sweet throughout this podcast history, you would think that he was one of the worst. Like he was like the Russ Wilson of this thing where he had a fall from grace and he wasn't good anymore, and like everything was so bad, and like what are they
Mhm.
going to do? Like you said, he's made it to every single, like he's always been there. He's
Yeah.
always been at the top. It's just we expect him to be a little bit higher up than what he has been doing, and which is still crazy because he's been playing really, really well. So
Yeah.
all those other factors added on top of it, I think it'll be interesting. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Moving forward into the next storyline here that I think we got to talk about them if we're talking Apex Legends. It's TSM. Are you expecting any sort of regression from the champions? I mean, they've won a bunch of times. Maybe they're a little bit bored. Maybe they're bored of winning. I don't know. That's a terrible question. I think it's a dumb question that I just asked, but like I feel like I gotta ask it. You see a lot of teams win a bunch of championships in a row. You're like, they're not locked in anymore. They're not as locked in. What do you think about TSM? Do you think they're still just as locked in as they were or as they've ever been?
Yeah, I don't think they're bored of winning, dude. I think all like Hal is I know that people like make that comparison of him and Michael Jordan, but I really believe that like he has that same kind of mentality of like he just wants to win. Like that's all he cares about. He doesn't care about all this other random stuff. Like he's not going out and doing all like playing all these other games like he's talked about before. Like he just wants to win lands. And so I think they're locked in. And also I think it helps for them that they get contested all the time, which is pretty funny considering and like Hal's talked about it, how like Sweet never gets contested, but they always do. And that I think that just kind of keeps you on your toes, you know. Like I do think the contest makes things dicey because even with the E8 contest, like E8 was like not fully fighting them, they weren't killing them, so TSM got to like play the game, but it threw them off. Like Hal was getting kind of annoyed, they were getting mad, and like they weren't performing as well. So if Meat Lovers starts to maybe get the edge in the contest, then things could get real spicy because we've already seen Hal, you know, throw the controller and who knows how that works on his mentals, but no, I think they're going to be fine in the long run. I said it whenever they were struggling last time that I will truly never doubt TSM until they give me a reason to actually do it. And by a reason, I don't mean like, oh, they might not make land. Like, no, they have to miss land for me to actually believe. And even in that case, I'll probably just expect them to bounce back next time, you know?
Like if when you think about throwing a controller in scrims before the season's even started, I think that can kind of put you in like the mindset of where TSM is at with their if they're bored of winning. Once
Yeah.
again, I knew it was a bad question when I was asking, but I just felt like that gets said about a lot of. It gets more said about fighters. I think fighters win a few fights, they get a
Yeah.
bunch of money. Conor McGregor, that type of situation. Okay, I've given you a bunch of storylines that I think people would be interested in, but I do
Mhm.
want you to give a storyline that maybe not enough people are talking about that we want to see or that you would like to hear or see more of, or just interested to see how it develops going into the season.
Well, I got a couple.
Hit me with them.
The first one that I think is really interesting is we had that kind of little three-way controller player transfer thing that happened where like Xset lost Sykes, they get Koiful, and then DZ gets Sykes, they lose Zainu, and then the Phonies team, former FaZe team, they lose Snipe, they get Zainu. And I think it's really interesting because I think all three teams actually upgraded. Like personally, I would say Koiful's better than Sykes. I think he's a better fit mainly for Xset too. But I think just in terms of raw like talent, I think he's a little bit better. And then I think Sykes is probably a little bit better than Zainu, especially fit there. I think he's a such an amazing fit for DZ because he's a very vocal player. He's going to give a lot of ideas. He's obviously been like a top fragger for a long time, so I really like the fit of him with DZ. Um, and then Zainu, I think he's an upgrade over Snipes. Like I think all three teams upgraded, and those are like three of the best teams in the world. Like DZ won a LAN, Phony's team got fifth and sixth the last two lands, and like Xset has been at the top for a long time, even though they had a bad champs. So that I'm really interested to see how all three of those teams do with like potential upgrades on their hands because that's like I don't know, that just kind of scares me for NA. Like that's just I don't know. Those three teams I feel like are all in that contention for the like potentially being first place in NA during the first split.
There are so many teams though,
dude. I know
that you could put in there. Like, there's just so many teams that could be like, oh yeah, I'm confident they're gonna make top 5. Because there's more than 5 teams that I can say.
Because that's not even talking about like Pollos Hermanos, Optic, like TSM, like Moist, all these other teams that we've already talked about too, like dark horse teams, like E8 or Dojo or whoever. Like, there's so many teams that like realistically,
like Dojo. I mean, like. Anytime that they perform like the 3 of them in a scrim, they're doing
out.
well.
Yeah.
Like and so like that's a team that hasn't been scrimming a ton.
Yeah.
But when they do, they just remind you who they are, and then they just go do their thing for whatever they're doing.
And
I definitely think that as the season gets closer, that's a team that you're going to see pick up their consistency of practice. They're all going to lock in a little bit more. And I mean, with the I would say limited amount of time in scrims that they've had, the fact that they're performing as well as they are, like, that's a team that we haven't even talked about at all that could be continually to be like scary good moving forward. And they all got signed today.
Yep.
So
I was going to say that they could get a little org buff. Maybe I'm speculation here. Who knows? By the time this episode comes out, they might have already announced it, but I'm thinking they're going to DSG, a little bit of disguised
I was thinking
action.
The same thing.
Yeah.
100p.
So, and I mean, they're just like, they're such a team that it feels like the snowball thing. Like, if they get rolling those first 2 match days, dude, they might just become unstoppable.
That design ego.
Yeah.
If it gets something to feed it, it's gonna catch fire.
Yeah. Dude,
makes his own videos, by the way.
All it takes is like one team like talking shit, or somebody decides to contest them or something, and you get design all fired up, dude. Like, they might go crazy. So that those are some of the storylines I have. Another one, which I know you guys talked about last week, as you interviewed VOD, but I'm really interested to see how Oversleepers do. Coming from PSQ, VOD, 16 years old, first time in Pro League, first chance to make Pro League. He's IGLing his teammates. Like, I don't know fully if they can make LAN, because that's like, I mean, even he said it on the interview, like, that's a pretty bold assumption to say on the first split. But if they can like finish top 20 and be playing in that regional finals, like, I mean, that
anybody can have a day.
Exactly.
Anybody can have a day.
And like, I don't know, like, you never know what happens going into split 2, because I mean, his teammates, both former Splitgate pros, so like, they know how to compete at the highest level in another game. And they were pretty nasty in PSQs, and they were still a relatively new team. Like, I think they only started scrimming like a couple weeks before PSQs even started. So, and then, who knows? VOD, he's so young, like, he could be getting better and better. So I think that team's pretty interesting too. And then my final one, I got one more.
Got another one. Oh, get me another one.
And this one kind of pains me a little bit, but I'm a little worried about Oxygen, the BR Demons, because we talked about it earlier that they lost their POIs. So I don't even actually know. I think they're landing at like Command Center on Stormpoint now, which they used to land Barometer, but I think with the map changes, Barometer's not apparently as good or something like that. And they tried to contest for Pylon, like the super OP, POI in the middle of the map, and I think they lost it. So they went to Command, and I don't know where they're landing on World's Edge, because I don't think they're going Fissure anymore. And so I don't know. I'm a little bit worried. Actually, hold on. I pulled it up. Where are they? Oxygen. Oh, they're not in that group. I'm trying to find where they're landing. They're landing Oh, no, that's Sentinels. They're landing Staging and Mirage. And Staging might be a little bit better, but both of those POIs kind of indicate to me, too, that they're maybe not going to play as much of like a flex and more of like a hard zone play style, which is an adjustment. And I don't know. I'm a little bit worried about Oxygen. I hope I'm wrong, because I love the boys, and they're like one of my favorite teams. Like, I think all 3 of them are insane. So I'm not doubting their talent, but the macro changes, which I'm not doubting Psycho either, their coach. So I'm sure he's cooking stuff up. But like, what they could have potentially had with Pylon, on Stormpoint, having to go down to Command Center, it just feels like a little bit of a downgrade. So that they're just a team to watch in terms of, are they still going to perform like we think they are, or is there maybe a drop off? I'm hoping not a drop off, but I'm a little worried.
So we've talked a ton of NA, And obviously, NA
Yep.
is the region we kind of focus on the most. It's hard to hit all regions, and a lot of the same teams come out of these other regions as well. I don't know how much you've paid attention to some of the other regions, but are there any teams that, for somebody newer to ALGS or doesn't really have the time or isn't awake or is at work at the wrong time to be able to watch these other regions either scrim or play,
Mm-hmm.
teams that they should look out for that they might see at a LAN?
For APAC South, obviously you have, I think that, I don't know how to pronounce it, Primus Caminata or something. It's former Blackhand, basically. Strafing Flame, who, you guys interviewed, Easy Flash, Player K, and I think they just got signed today as well.
They did
So,
also just get signed today,
yeah,
so shout out those guys.
yeah.
Huge for them.
And so watch out for them because, I mean, with Moist leaving APAC South, they're like the favorites to win that region because, I mean, they just got third at champs, right? So, like, they're ballers. But also in that region, we have a team named Divine, which is Pricey, who used to be on Moist, and I once tweeted was the most underrated player in the entire world. Wei, who was on Tom Young Kung at champs, if anybody watched them. Up and coming controller. I don't know if it's up and coming. He's been around, but like one of the rising controller talents in APAC South. And then Shady, who was previously on Onyx. So he's also been around playing at lands, has finished in the top 10 before. So that team is kind of like, I don't want to say an all-star team, but like these are some pretty heavy hitters from APAC South from 3 different teams all kind of coming together. And I think they've been doing really good in scrims. So watch out for Divine. And then another team in APAC South, Boogie Borders. I mean, that's Racky, Fussy. They were previously Onyx. Before they were Onyx, they were called Boogie Borders as well. And I can't remember their third off the top of my head. But those boys, I mean, like they're studs. They're absolute studs. So for APAC South, X Blackhand, Boogie Borders, Divine, those 3 teams. For APAC North, dude, APAC North had like every team make a roster change, like all the top teams outside of like a couple. So it feels a little hard to truly know who's going to like ball out there. But I'm very interested to see how the Pulverex roster performs because Pulverex. So basically, what happened in APAC North is like all the orgs or teams like kept their IGLs. So like Fnatic, they have Yuka F. He's like the best player in the region, and then they got rid of their other 2 players. Pulverex did the same thing. They have F-Chan, and he's been to like every LAN. He's been to multiple LAN finals. If anyone remembers at the 2022 champs, Pulverex was the duo who was playing like throughout the LAN because their third got COVID, and they almost made it to the finals as a duo, which was like pretty baller. But they pick up Umi-chan and Hammer Drill, who are from Fnatic and FC Destroy, and it's just interesting because Pulverex was like a very zone-based team, and Umi-chan and Hammer Drill were like hard edge, like going crazy fighting type teams. And so just like the marriage of those 2 play styles, I think is going to be really cool because I could see them still playing zone like F-Chan normally does, but having like just the insane firepower of those 2. Like that team feels kind of cold to me. Like they might actually go crazy in APAC North. So they're my team to watch out there. I also like North Eption and Fnatic, which I mean, Fnatic has been around forever, but they're interesting because Yuka F, who's the best player in the region, he's not IGLing anymore. He's passing that off to like Q, who is a new addition to the team, and so that's just going to be an interesting change because Yuka F has been like Fnatic has been the dominant team in that region for so long with him as the IGL. So that's just kind of like a big change. Like that's like Hal deciding not to IGL anymore, which we know that he can like ball out as a fragger, but like that's how big it is in terms of APAC North. And then EMEA, I don't know if any region had more roster changes than EMEA, so it's kind of tough to really say who like the top teams are, except for like Alliance. Alliance is the same team that everybody knows and loves. They're going to probably win EMEA again because they're ballers. But other than them, I like 07, Nasky's team. I'm trying to think who else is like even a team in that region. I like Kashera. I mean, Kashera's a stud. I'm interested to see. I love Aurora, dude. Aurora is the former Fire Beavers team. They picked up Hardeki. That's like the all-star team for the Russians, dude. Like that's like a sick team over there. And
Question.
yeah.
Let's say they make a Sunday.
Yeah.
Over under 1 point on the stables.
Aurora?
Yeah.
They're over for sure.
Over. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Because I bet on them one time, and they got me. 1 point. So.
Wasn't that
Oh no, it
Ascend?
was one kill. Oh, was it Ascend?
Yeah, it was Ascend, right? With
I
Kashera
thought it
and
was
Lufka.
Aurora.
No.
No, it was Ascend. You're right.
Because
You're
this
right.
Aurora team too, they were previously Fire Beavers, and it was a different team that was Aurora.
You're right. You're right.
But I'm pretty yeah, you're talking about Ascend, which
Is
they're not a
is
team
that
anymore. They're not a
okay?
team. The org
All
left
right.
Apex, and all 3 teammates split up, and they're on different teams.
Okay.
So yeah,
Interesting.
you don't have beef with them anymore. But I'm really interested to see too from EMEA Element 6, K Swinney, the IGL. He picked up Slab and CJ, and they're 2 like young roller players who are pretty insane. And Swinney's been like one of the top IGLs in EMEA for a long time. So just like on paper, it feels like a pretty crazy. If it kind of feels like Sweet and LG, like picking up 2 young rollers, and you're kind of wondering like, how does it work? Is it going to work? Is it not? I don't know. We'll see. So those are my teams to watch out for in other regions.
There we go.
That's
Always in
a
depth.
lot of information there. But.
Yeah, no, always in depth, always good. That's what you get with JHawk. That's what you get with JHawk. Okay, so you said earlier at the very beginning of that spiel that you had tweeted out the most underrated player in your opinion. I think you said underrated controller player in your opinion. But
He's an M&K. It was pricey. But that was like 6 months ago.
Yeah, so I want to follow that up with who would you tweet that about right now? Any region, whoever it may be, could be NA, could be any other region as well. Is there an underrated player? I know we talked about blank on his name. Vod. I know we just talked about Vod,
Voddery.
and you talked about, but I don't even know if he's underrated. I think it's just like he's rookie, fresh to the scene, new. Is there an underrated player that people aren't talking about right now?
To me, underrated is like someone who's like performing at a super high level, but people aren't giving like the respect that he deserves. That's how I view underrated personally. So that's why I was talking about pricey, because like the dude was an M&K putting out like the most damage on LAN with Moist, and like nobody was talking about him. I'm like, dude, like this guy's putting up numbers and y'all aren't. And they were like a hard zone, like camping in a corner with like triple whites playing Watson, and the guy was like leading in damage. Like that's insane. So that's why I said that about pricey. But right now, most underrated player. I have one. I'm just scrolling through teams because I don't want to make sure if I don't leave anybody out, because I have one name in mind who I don't think is necessarily underrated, but I'm way higher on him than it seems like almost anybody else. Not anybody, but a lot of people. I'm not seeing anybody else from NA. I can't think of anybody else from any other regions, because most of the other regions too, like if you're a stud, like people know who you are. Yeah. Because like the B stream will like really hype up other regions too, and there's not as much representation. So I guess I don't know. I'm just gonna go with my tried and true, and the whole reason I'm saying him, because I don't think you guys underrate him, but I've seen it a lot on the Reddit or like the competitive Apex Discord, all those kind of things. My man Phony, the Phony fan club. We're rising back up.
We might overrate him on this show. That's how much we talk about that.
The guy,
I love
if
Phony.
It was possible. If it was possible.
He finished 5th and 6th on LAN, and people were like, they sucked. Like that FaZe team was so overrated. Like it was a fluke. And I'm like, dude, what are you, like, did it in back-to-back LANs? Like they were top 5 in NA. They go place 5th at Split 2 playoffs, and they go place 6th. And that was without them having, like, even Snipe Down said it in the podcast after champs, like an X factor. Like they just didn't have like that special something. I mean, they just added Zainu, who's like, you know, the dude is a champion. Like he won a LAN with DZ. That feels like a pretty crazy upgrade. And yeah, I don't feel like people are like hyping up Phony like they should be. Like the guy,
I'm so happy you said
in
that.
my opinion, he is a like bona fide guaranteed top 5 IGL in the world. Sure, he hasn't won a LAN. So like to me, it's HAL 0, right? They're the top 2 because they've won LANs. Like they're the only 2. And then after that, there's a gap. But then after that, like over the last year, who can you say did better than Phony? He made it to all 3 LAN finals. He did get 15th in Split 1, but that was his first ever LAN, and that was with Cody and Luda. which even then, like Cody was a sub, so they didn't have like a full split to play with him. So who knows about like chemistry and all that stuff. And I'm not taking anything away from Cody because the guy's a stud. He went, played with complexity. They went to all 3 lands. But then he had to make a roster change, goes to phase, and then he gets 5th and 6th. Like, Xset didn't make it to finals at Champs. DZ didn't make it to finals at Champs. Optic didn't even make it to the land during split 1. Like, in terms of consistency, the dude was there. Like, he was at every single land finals, 2 top 6 performances. And that, I mean, their team fighting, I'm just going to be honest, was ass. Like, they couldn't fight anybody. Like, and they were a triple roller team, which is the worst part. The whole reason that they were getting the performances they were is because Phony's macro is insane, and he got him in such good spots in the match point lobbies that he was consistently showing up. So I don't know. I feel like Phony's a like guaranteed top 5 IGL, in my opinion. Other people might disagree, but I don't know. I just feel like the results speak for themselves. When you actually like analyze their gameplay, like he just does so much for that team. It's just kind of insane.
Beautiful. I love that you said that so much because since the day he was on this show, I felt it. And you have so much more knowledge than I do, but I like that we can just link up in that one thing right there. Right there. Phony is the dude. He is that guy. So we got an underrated player here. Underrated team. Would you say that is the team, or do you have another team that maybe people aren't talking? I'll call that the dark horse. Is there a dark horse team you're looking at?
I won't say them because that's just kind of boring to say them because I gave my spiel, right? Underrated team. I haven't thought about this ahead of time, so this is kind of tough. Because NA, I don't feel like any of the teams that like people are talking about feel underrated,
TSM
like,
maybe?
Okay.
I would say that there's not enough respect on Dojo for how good they are.
I would agree.
I think
but
a
also,
lot of people think that they just had a good day for finals and that they're not going to just be a top 5 team. But I think I would put them as a lock for a top 5.
That might also be my biased perspective.
Are we going to do top 5s?
Because I think Dojo's like insane. Like, if anybody wants to go watch if anyone wants to go spend an hour of your life understanding why they're so good, it's my longest video I've ever made because they're cool and the whole team interviewed for it. So go watch my Dojo video, shameless plug. Because they did not just have one good day. Like they made it through the winner's bracket too, and they balled out in groups. Anyway, I'm not gonna say an NA team because I feel like that's kind of, I don't know. I don't feel like any of those teams are like criminally underrated. The closest I would say is like maybe like E8 or Flat because I feel like they're kind of dark horses to like, I don't feel like a lot of people are giving them a ton of respect, but I could totally see them like finishing like 6th and like just kind of cruising to land. But even then, I feel like they're kind of more popular dark horse picks, if that makes sense. So I'm going to say, hold on. I'm trying to pull up the list of teams from APAC South because I feel like I had an APAC South team that I wanted to highlight. I mean, I already kind of hyped them up, but I would say Divine because in APAC South, like the actual pecking order for most people would be like Blackhand, Dreamfire because I mean they just got like 8th on land. You have MDY White up there, Boogie Borders because like they're the previous Onyx team that has done so well. Ironblood Gaming is really good, but Divine, I mean, like I said, the guy who I thought 6 months ago was the most underrated player in the world, Pricey, he's on that team. Then you add in Way, like I said, Rising Star controller player. You add in Shady, who's placed top 10 at LAN before. Like they just feel like such a good team. And like I said, they've been balling out in scrims to my knowledge from over in APAC South. I don't like exclusively watch APAC South scrims pretty much ever, but I'm pretty sure they've been doing really good based on like the score updates and things I've seen. So I would say Divine because like all 3 of those players have experience on LAN. 2 of them have placed in the top 8 at a LAN environment before. So it's going to be real interesting to see them. Like I think they're going to make LAN and they could potentially surprise a lot of people. Which I know this is like a super early thing to say, considering that we're like 5 months away from it. But
yeah, that's the fun part of it, though. This is you look back on it, and you're just like, what the hell was I thinking? But maybe you're not. That you get that one where you're like, I nailed it, dude. And that's what it is.
I'm so upset because on this podcast, I've had a hot streak, right? Well, my hot streak was 1 because I said FaZe was my dark horse for split 2
Pretty hot.
playoffs, and then they got 5, right? They got
Yeah.
5th. And then I thought first, like, I remember for the champs episode, I mentioned Blackhand as one of my dark horses, but when you guys made me pick one, I didn't pick them. And
You switched it. Yeah.
yeah, I think I said like go next or something. And I'm like,
Yeah.
if I said Blackhand, I would have looked like such a genius, dude. Like that would have been
Yeah.
crazy, but I didn't. So sad.
Well, I mean, I said Ascend first place, and they got 1.
Okay, but didn't you try to pull like a reverse fin?
No, I honestly, because I was like, okay, there's no way another NA team wins the LAN again. Like, I was just like, there's no
Yeah.
shot. I don't know why I thought that, but I was like, there's no way. And so I was like, it's got to be one of these 2 teams. And I think it was like Aurora and Ascend. And I was like, oh, everybody's thinking Aurora. It's going to be Ascend. And then that's what I thought in my head. And yeah, we know how that went. But speaking of predictions, it's time. JHawk, it is time. I want your winner.
Okay.
I want you to round out your top 5. And then you already said your dark horse. Do you want to leave that dark horse? You want to leave that one?
Wait, is this for LAN or is this for like
This
NA?
is for LAN. This is for
LAN. Gosh, that's so far
LAN.
away though, dude. I don't even know what the meta is gonna be like.
Okay. You want me to make it easier on you? You want me to go just NA?
Yeah, let's do just NA because
Let's do just NA.
Season 20 could like bring back the Gibby meta, and then like everything changes. You know, like.
But
then,
what if you're just right though? What if
I
you
feel
just
like
guess it right?
The issue is I feel like I would just default to like some really obvious teams. Like my dark horse pick wouldn't be like when I said FaZe or almost said Blackhand because I don't fully know yet. You know, like I'm just you know, like so I wouldn't have some like cool ballsy take.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll just do NA then. We'll go your winner of NA.
Okay.
And then round out the next 4, and then finish it off with your dark horse.
Okay, my winner, I'm gonna say Xset. They got Koifel. He's the chosen one. If you forced me to pick a team that wins LAN, I would say them or Optic right now. I know that we're not doing LAN, but if you forced me to pick one, that's who I'm picking.
This makes me wish you would have just done LAN.
Yeah, but I'm not
we didn't talk about Xset at all.
I know.
We haven't talked about Xset. We didn't talk about Xset once. We didn't. I mean, we talked about it a little bit with the Koi situation.
Yeah.
But I mean, we haven't talked at all about Xset, and we haven't talked at all about Optic.
And you named them 1 and 2,
dude. In the slightest.
Those boys are gross, though. Like Optic. I mean, they just got second at champs. So everybody knows they're nasty, but like they're just so good, dude. When I made my video about Optic, I don't think I've ever like watched a team that felt so like just robotic at how good they were. Like it was just so routine. There wasn't a lot of like, they don't have like these crazy emotional swings. If things are going bad, they're fine. They'll figure it out. If things are going good, they're just going to keep like doing it, you know? And then I don't think I've ever seen, I know we've never seen a team come that close to winning over and over and over again. Like that's crazy. Every other team that gets like kind of close at LAN, they typically have like one game where they almost win it and then they don't, and then like they kind of fade away and then TSM wins. This game, like Optic had so many chances, and I know they didn't close it out, but I think they're going to learn from that. Like how, you know, that's just going to be a moment. So I think they could win. But I'm going to say Xset wins North America. Because I just think that they have like the 2 different play styles depending on the map, and I think that just gives them more flexibility, if that makes sense. Like if they're playing bad on edge one day, then they go to Storm Point, they're on zone, boom, they're gonna be fine. And Koifel's just insane. Like the vibes are off the charts for those boys. So I'm saying Xset wins. I'm gonna say Optic second, League of Legends third. That's Phony's team. I'm gonna say DZ fourth, and then fifth. I'm gonna say Moist. Moist is fifth.
Okay.
And the reason, because I know that TSM. What about TSM? They're contesting. Like,
Just about to ask.
they didn't get top 5 last split while contesting. So
Yeah.
I still think they'll be fine on land. It's just how they get there might be a little bit more rocky considering the contest. But there's 12 spots now, so they should make it. But that's my top 5: Xset, Optic, League of Legends, DZ, Moist, in that order. What was the other part?
It was Dark Horse, but I think you already answered it with no. Your
No,
Dark Horse
that was an
not
Apex
in
Out
NA.
team. Yeah. Dark Horse. Ooh. I'm gonna go E8, which is interesting because honestly, I'm gonna be real. When we came into this split, and this was before they got Zap, and it was just chaotic Shuby Zach. I didn't really feel that great about that team. Like, I like Shuby and I like the addition, but it still felt like the team was kind of gonna be the same almost. And then when the Zapto change happened, and just watching them in scrims, they feel like a completely different team. And I know that they also added Talmadge as the coach, and so I know that like he's got some influence there. Zach feels like super locked in because I mean, like, the guy, he's a professional, but I think he's like, he kind of understands like where his stock is viewed as from the general public just because he hasn't made land like last year. And so I think that he's locked in. The rollers are both nasty. Talmadge kind of figuring out the macro. I mean, we talked about it, like they've been doing good in scrims. I don't know, I feel like E8 feels like a team that they could be one of those teams that like everybody's kind of sleeping on, and in like a month time, people are like, oh yeah, E8, they're great, like they're balling out, you know, like they're fourth right now on the leaderboard or something. So I would say they're kind of my dark horse team because I don't feel like a lot of people are fully, like, some people are saying they could make land and have the potential, but I don't feel like everyone's saying they are going to make land.
All right, we're there. There we go. There you have it. That is the rankings. That is predictions, and also that is JHawk.
Okay,
JHawk
but
coming in
hold on.
hot
What about your
with
rankings?
the. So
Did
ours
you
are.
guys
I'm
already
gonna
do
play
them?
ours after like
Okay.
our because I got to lead you in on the interview part. They
Okay.
got to have a reason to listen to the show other than JHawk. They got
Yeah.
you can't just drop the bomb now. We still got to hit it on
Well,
the
I
back
mean,
end.
Well, tell me your rankings though, because I want to, you know, maybe I'll
no, we
roast
can
you or
definitely
something.
keep it in the interview for sure.
You want
I'm
to?
down. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
This man just told us.
You can
Okay.
still
Can we get the
play it
rundown? What
beforehand
was it
if you
again?
want. What'd you say? You
So
want to
you-
write? You want to write
Yeah,
mine
wait,
down?
what's your rundown again for first through fifth? And
Mine
then
was
you had
in order: Xset, Optic, League of Legends, Dark Zero, Moist, and my dark horse was E8.
Okay, I thought I had some more time on this, so give me a second.
that's sturdy.
give me 1
You
second.
thought you
If
had
you
more
have
time?
yours, if you have yours, Enoch, go ahead.
I just did that on the spot. I want everyone to know I didn't plan this
Yeah.
ahead. I just did it on the spot. I kind of vaguely knew you might ask me, but I don't know. I just made that up on the spot.
I'm gonna put Dojo number 1.
Ooh, that's a bold take.
I'm gonna put X at 2. I'll throw Optic at 3. Let's throw DZ in up there at 4. And then I'll take E8 at 5th, and I'll put Flat as
Okay.
my dark horse.
That's bold.
Okay.
I'm biased. I'm biased as hell. I'm definitely biased, but
All right.
I don't know. I might swap. I'm tempted to swap DZ for LOL just because, I mean, they've been doing phenomenally well, but yeah, I just feel like it'd be disrespectful. And I was already, I'd followed suit with Jay in terms of keeping TSM out, because I was definitely, in my mind, they were like, in my head, like, okay, like obviously they're going to be top 5,
Yeah.
but like the contesting thing, and like, I mean, that man Tech, he does not.
I just think
Like,
if it's
Tech
close,
doesn't care.
he's
And
not going to
they're
leave.
also, like, they're also getting contested by Temper, which
Yeah.
is a contest that they're like winning pretty handily right now. But from our interview that we had with all the Temper boys, like they live for the contest.
Right.
And so even though they're getting swept, like I think they know that they're only going to get swept so many times until they're eventually going to start getting them back. And if they
Right.
start getting them back on game days too, ooh.
I mean, all it takes is like if they win 2 games in a row, dude, like that 2 games is chalked, and now you got to make up for it the next 4. Like, it puts pressure on you. You never know. And they have nothing to lose, right?
They
Like
got
TSM
nothing to
has
lose.
everything
I
to
mean,
lose.
they're in pro league. They
Yeah.
got nothing to lose. They're just balling.
Okay. All right. So I got mine.
All right.
I'm gonna start off with my dark horse, then go down.
Okay.
So as Enoch, right before he started talking about it, I wrote down DH, abbreviation dark horse. I put temper.
Okay.
I am a little biased as well. Like when we talk to those guys, not only was it the fact that they enjoy the contest, it was like we have to. Like this is like our opportunity. Like the way we got in was with weird circumstances. We have to just go for it and just try our best. And when we told them, I think I don't know if it was on the interview or if it was after, but we talked a little bit about like, what are you guys going to do if it starts to go bad? And they were basically like, well, we don't really have anything to lose, and we just keep going. Plus, it's not even game day yet. Like we can just keep playing it and keep going and going and going. So I put temper as my dark horse. 5, I have LOL. I have to have phony in every single one of my standings. That will always be the case. Number 4, I've got moist. They've always also been in all of my standings. That will always be the case. Number 3, neither of you guys put this in, I don't think. Luminosity. I think Sweet's going to do well.
Sweet.
I think Sweet's going to bounce back.
Dude, I mean, there's just so many teams to put
There's
in
a bunch
top
of teams.
5, man.
It's
There's
hard,
just
dude.
too many teams to put in top 5.
And then I went with Xset number 2, and I went with Optic number 1. I think both of those top 2 teams are pretty consistent. At least they have shown with the last season they were pretty consistent.
They also just have like god tier POIs. They're not contested. Like they didn't have like any drama or anything. Like Xset did have the roster change, but like I said, I think they got better. So I mean, they're studs.
Yeah. So Optic is my champ, my dark horse temper. That was the rest of my list. Okay, well, predictions are out of the way, ladies and gents. JHawk, once again, thank you for your insight, man. It's always a pleasure having you on. Like I said at the beginning of the interview, if you guys don't check out his YouTube, what the hell is wrong with you? Why do you listen to this show if you're not going to go check him out as well? You got to go check out JHawk. He's got all the breakdowns. He's got everything. He's one of our favorite guests to have on the show. Thank you, JHawk. Thank you for the insight, and we can't wait to hear from you again pretty soon. Maybe before the first LAN, maybe at Champs, maybe before the second LAN, whatever. We're always ready to have JHawk on. So, Jay, thanks for hopping on the show, my man.
Absolutely. And also, I mean, shameless plug, but I don't know if by the time the video comes out or by the time this podcast comes out, if the video will be done and released, but little preview, not exclusive. I lied. I did post it on my YouTube community section, but my next video is about the B stream. I'm trying something new. I've always done analysis stuff for teams, but I'm doing a little more story-based type of video, so it'll be interesting.
There we go.
Let's
go.
Yeah.
Let's go. It's exciting. It's exciting stuff. All right, Jay, once again, thanks, man. Thanks for hopping on.
Appreciate you, boys.
All right, ladies and gents. Hopefully by the time you're listening to this, you're getting hyped up and ready for ALGS Year 4 to begin. So that should be there. JHawk got you ready for it. He got you with the knowledge. He hit you with all of it. Shout out JHawk. Once again, if you don't know, if you don't subscribe to him on YouTube, what the hell are you doing? If you enjoy this sport, if you listen to this podcast and you're not subscribed to JHawk, it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, to be honest, because you're listening to a show about competitive Apex and then you're not looking at other competitive Apex content. It makes no sense. Like that just doesn't click. So go do that right now. Shout out JHawk.
None at all.
He is the man. Heart to heart time, Enoch. It is heart to heart time. Let's get it. All right. Who wants to go first?
You got that.
Is it me?
You got
Okay.
I think
me.
I went first last
Yeah,
week.
you went first. No, I think you went first the last 2 weeks. So I'm
Yeah.
down with it.
I've been ripping low first.
If we can have like little, we go back and forth, I think that's the best way to do it. My heart to heart this week was, oh man. Sometimes I feel like, you just have a moment where I think it kind of goes back to the gratitude thing. There was a moment where I had all my friends and family like around me for my birthday, and I was like all hanging out and we were having a good time. Everybody's laughing, everybody's joking. You got a couple friends over there playing zombies. You got a couple playing beer hockey. You got some just talking. you got everybody just kind of relaxing, hanging out, and it just comes to a head, and you're just like, wow, I am very, very lucky. Despite some of the shortcomings you may have in your life or whatever, you got to take those moments in when they happen, especially on the day that you were born. So I was very happy with that. I was very grateful for all the people around me and all that cool stuff. And then another exciting thing, I haven't seen my mom in like a year, and she will be in town by the time this episode drops. So gonna be cool to see my mom because I haven't seen her in a very, very long time, and my stepdad as well. So they will be in town. Will be very, very cool. They're gonna visit the house, and then they're gonna see the baby for the first time. So it's always good. Once again, family, friend stuff. That's always good. It's just you got to appreciate those moments. A lot of pictures will be taken. A lot of moments will be had. So that'll be very, very cool. Shout out, mom. That is my heart to heart. E.
Yeah. Hmm. I would say that with whatever you're going through, it is amazing to be able to get to a place where you're just like at peace with it. Because like I've had like a lot of stuff that are like a little bit up in the air at times, and just being able to get to a place where I'm just like have that like shalom, like just like that peace, and I've been working and working and working to like get to that place because I've instinctually trained myself to not, and so it's taken a lot, like a very concerted effort to like bring more of that like into my life, and the more I do that, the happier I am, and so I'm thankful for that.
There we go.
And yeah,
There we go. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. Once again, everybody, we cannot be more excited for the rest of the season. They've got plenty in store for the rest of the season. It should be a very, very good split one. And I would say the storylines right now are the most juicy they've ever been. I'm sure there's been at times juicier ones, but we've got so many juicy ones right now. So make sure you watch, make sure you pay attention. And when everything is said and done, the boys will be here ready to break down some ALGS. It's been a long off season. I'm just ready to get it underway. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. This would be a great time right now also too to join the Discord so you can have conversations with others watching as well as me and Enoch. So click that link down below, join the Discord. Ladies and gents, that should just about do it for us this week. We will catch you guys next week for another episode of the Apex the podcast. See ya.